We hear the screams as we then cut to inside the room, as a woman is standing in a lab coat, as we see her taking notes, as we see a man in a closed off room, as we see a deadhead bites them on the neck, as the blood goes everywhere. The woman then says,
Fais sûr que les cadavres réanimés restent dans notre position.
As she walks away, as we see, she walks up to a computer and starts writing stuff down, as we see the blood running across the floor. We see the helicopter flying above the town of Halliburton, as Kezia then fires. Several buildings get blown up as we see people running for their lives. We then see a few people running out of the buildings on fire as we see they are burnt very badly, as some are fighting for life as they then drop dead and burn alive. Tom and Billy hear this from down the street as Tom says, "Go! Get those guns now! Take out every chopper you see!" As Tom takes Billy as he says, "Where are we going?" Tom says, "Somewhere safe, kiddo. Come on." We then see even more buildings get blown up as Tom says, "Go! Run! That way! Go!" As we see another explosion goes off right in front of them as they both go down. We see the night sky as we then see Haley, Rob, Rivers, and Arlo running through the woods. Arlo says, "Hey, try again." Haley pulls out her walkie-talkie and says, "Tom, this is Haley. Do you copy?" They look worried as we hear, it's breaking up as Haley says, "Shit, come on, we gotta go." Rivers says, "We got deadheads." Rob says, "All right, let's take them out." Rob slashes two of them as Arlo then covers him and kills one coming up behind him. Haley uses her pickaxe to kill two, but then Haley falls through a floor covered in vines. Rob says, "Haley!" She falls in this flooded basement in this destroyed building. As Rivers then says, "We fight to get her out, come on!" As Haley then says, I'm all right. As we then hear a growling noise from inside the basement. She pulls out her knife as she moves through this old, disgusting looking water. Rivers circles around to the destroyed front of the building. She walks through, trying to get in to save her. We see she continues to hear growling as Haley stands there with her knife. As Rob says, "What is that?" As Haley keeps moving, as we see a massive deadhead comes out of the water, Haley looks up at this as it roars at her. Rob hears this and yells, "Haley!" He says, "Go down there! You and Rivers, get that door open!" Arlo says, "Where are we going?" Rob says, "Making sure we don't lose another West. Come on!" As he then jumps in to save her, she then sees him and says, "What the hell are you doing, Johnson?" Rob says, "You really think I was going to let you do this alone? Get back!" He pulls out his gun as he shoots the deadhead over and over and over again. But no matter how many times he shoots, and no matter how many times he fires at this deadhead, it only gets knocked back by a bit. As it continues to walk towards them, Rob then pushes some shelves towards him to give them an opening. They go through this building as Haley then finds a Molotov cocktail as she then takes one off the shelves. We then see Rivers and Arlo bust down the door as Arlo says, "Hey, freak! On us now, come on!" The deadhead then turns around and starts going towards them. As Rivers then comes in and throws two of her knives into the deadhead's brain, she then starts shooting it a few times over and over again. As we see, it starts bleeding very badly. It then picks up Arlo off the ground and throws him towards the wall. As Rivers then finds another Molotov cocktail as well on another one of the shelves. Haley then gets hers ready as Rivers does the same, as they then give each other a signal, and then they throw both of them towards it as it starts falling down and burning. We see it still starting to move as they all push the shelves on top of this deadhead as they crush it. Haley then takes her pickaxe and stabs it in the head, killing it for good. As they all stand there, out of breath, as they all look at this thing, as Rob says, "In the last 15 fucking years, I've never seen anything like that before." River says, "I haven't either. I've seen some crazy ones, but I can't say I've seen anything like that. When you shoot them in the head, they usually go down. Multiple shots were fired, and it took fucking everything for even one of those things to go down. What the fuck is this thing?" Haley then sees green liquid pouring out of the deadhead's neck. She then says, "Whatever it isn't natural. Someone somewhere is doing this. This isn't the dead we've known." They hear more explosions coming from far, as Rivers looks worried and says, "Guys, we gotta go, now." As they all keep running back to the Halliburton community, as we focus on the dead corpse of this bloated deadhead, as we see the green liquid continue to pour out of its neck. Back in Halliburton, we see Tom and Billy are on the ground as they were both knocked back by the explosion. Then Tom sees Billy on the ground and says, "Hey, are you okay?" Billy says, Yeah, I think so." We see more buildings are getting blown up as we see the choppers flying overhead. As Tom sees this and says, "All right, I'm getting you to the pantry," Billy says, "But I want to help." Tom says, "That is not happening. Come on, it's just down this block." Tom radios Blake and says, "Blake, make sure you get all the families and children in that bunker we built. Make sure nobody gets down there, okay?" Blake says, okay, got it." We then see several Ziltrumite trucks pulling up outside of Halliburton's walls, as we see the soldiers stepping out, as we see one of them says, "This is good. Once they land, we move in. Officer Sampson, Officer Ellicott, take a search around the area. Make sure we're clear." As we see, these officers are Colin and Rebecca, who are now soldiers for Ziltrumite as well. As Colin says, "How many people inside?" The soldier then says, "Well, that's what we want you both to find out. Shoot to kill in there, understand?" Colin says, "Of course," as they just nod and go along with it. back in Ziltrumite. We see the party is starting as we see everyone having a good time. As we see Enzo and Julia walking into this party with a few of his men. As everyone clears the room and lets them through. We then see Mr. Sunderland at the bar, standing there serving everyone drinks. As we see Conductor Matthew shows up, as he says, "Oh, Conductor Matthew, I expected you to skip this one. Given the fact you're a fucking conductor, I thought that maybe it would be kind of painful." Matthew laughs and says, "You really can't stand awkward silence, can you?" Mr. Sunderland says, "Fuck no. That's why I became a bartender. I love conversations, even the ones that are the most difficult to have. And good job for keeping the train moving when others didn't get the chance to do the same. I would like to just say as a citizen that you are doing a fantastic job, Conductor Matthew." Matthew smiles and says, "Yeah, this is totally what I want to be doing." He walks off into the party as we see Enzo walks up to his own private VIP section of the party. As we see some guys let him through. As we see even Julia sits in the VIP section with Enzo. As we see his guys sit there. As we see the party going on. We see Dave walking the streets doing his patrol, as he then hears these people laughing and yelling as he goes down this alleyway to see what's going on. He sees these people are spray painting stuff on the walls. As we see Dave walking up to this, they then pull out a gun and start shooting at Dave. Dave gets back behind the building as he pulls out his gun and he fires back. As he radios in, "This is Constable Miller, calling in for backup, over." We hear a response saying, "Copy that, we're on our way." As Dave fires his gun towards these men, we see they run away as Dave says, "Shit!" as he proceeds to run after these men. We see Blake running through the streets with as many of the families as he could round up. As we see Natalie in the crowd and says, "Where are we going?" Blake says, "Somewhere safe." As we see some of the families getting into the bunker, as Blake then stands by the door, as he closes it and says, "Okay, everyone just remain calm. We need to all stay calm, alright? Tom and the others are gonna deal with this. For now, we need to keep the rest of you here safe, okay?" One of the women then says, "They killed my mother. She was inside the house. She was..." Blake says, "I'm sorry. We didn't get to everyone. I know we didn't. But I did what I could. The ones that we did lose, Tom is making sure they're going to be avenged now. So our role in here is one thing. Surviving." As we see Blake seems to be willing to man up and protect the innocents. We see several buildings on fire, as we see Arthur and Kezia land their chopper, as Kezia looks pissed, as Arthur looks happy, and says, "Nice going, Taylor. I am mighty tickled to see the success that we've already been having this evening." He looks over as she says, "You're a fucking monster. You didn't give me a fucking choice," Arthur says. "I know, but so are these people. They're monsters as well. They ran away from the best goddamn opportunity they ever saw all these years ago. And now they're seeing exactly what it's like to not live in the best city in the world." Kezia says, "The best? So I guess that's what you tell yourself, huh?" Arthur says, "I would watch that tone of yours if I were you, sweetheart. Our mission isn't done here. Let's go." They get suited up and get off the helicopter, as Arthur says, "Sweep the town, shoot to kill." He radios in and says, "Officer Sampson, Officer Lecoq, do you copy?" Colin picks it up and says, "We're here. We'll shoot anybody that tries getting out." Arthur says, "Good. We are going to contain this. When this is done, I want you to venture out about 5 to 10 miles of every direction. Make sure we don't miss anything, or anyone that may be potentially slipping through the cracks. We gotta consider all possibilities here." Colin says, "Of course, sir. Understood." as we see Colin and Rebecca at the vantage point, as he pulls out his gun, as he gets ready to snipe anyone from Halliburton that he sees, as Rebecca says, "Who the hell are these people, Colin?" Colin says, "Not sure. An enemy of the city is all they told me." Rebecca says, "Colin, this is inhumane." Colin says, "I know it is, but it's this or we die with them. Dave made the choice for us. Dave made sure that everybody survived that night. Now I'm gonna make sure we survive this one. And besides, we don't even know these damn people." We see the party going on as we see Julia walking by the crowd on her way back to Enzo, as we see a man stops her and says, "Julia, I don't mean to bother you, but we're trying these wonderful new milkshakes out. We would love for you to be one of our first taste testers." Julia then sees Enzo talking with some of his guys as she says, "Sure, might as well. I'm not supposed to be bothering him while he's making his little deals anyway, so what do we have here?" The guy says, "We'll add a straw, and that's a cream soda milkshake. Happy Milkshake Monday." Julia says, "Oh, cool, but it's Friday." The guy then says, "Well, we'll just fire up the old blender, and we'll make it Float Day Friday." Julia says, Interesting. Well, thanks." We see Enzo sitting in the VIP section, as we see Enzo and his boys talking to these men, as Enzo says, "You come to me with an offering." The guy says, "Anything for you, Commander. And no, I have a few guns ready to be transported, ready for your men's transportation. And in trouble times like this, I figured you would have jumped to the idea." Enzo laughs at this and says, "Well, you really think I'm just going to take any kind of fucking deal that comes at me? That's not how we do business. And it's actually fucking times like this that doesn't make me jump to deals like this. You understand?" The guy says, "I understand, but perhaps you could reconsider. We could talk some numbers or something." Enzo says, "Why the fuck are you so desperate to make this deal today?" "We will, but not here." The man says, "Enzo, please! I really need this deal to happen. My daughter, she's sick. She needs treatment, okay? And I have no money to help her. Prices here have been insane, sir, and I'm just asking if maybe you could cut me some slack." Enzo then looks at him and says, "Oh, well, my heart goes out to her. Truly fucking do. And I truly hope somebody could help you." The guy looks angry, and Enzo says, "We'll have more to discuss tomorrow. Kindly for now, fuck off. Now get the fuck out there, will ya? It's been 5 minutes." The guy starts walking out, as we then see Mr. Sunderland walks up to his guys and serves them drinks, and Enzo says, "Oh look, it's our Scotland lad. The fucking guy looks like he's right out of the In-Betweeners cast. Anyone seen that show, gentlemen?" A few of them laugh as Mr. Sunderland then serves them, and Enzo says, "Oh fuck no, I'm not fucking drinking tonight. I'm trying to keep a level head here. And I don't drink unless it's a very rare occasion. The commander must be on full alert at all times." Mr. Sunderland says, "Of course, sir. Say, could I possibly introduce to you a, non-alcoholic beverage? Christ, there's plenty to go around." Enzo just looks at him, and Mr. Sunderland says, "Well, if you need anything at all, Commander, I'll be right down here." Enzo waits for him to leave and says, "He's a persistent little fuck, isn't he?" As they all laugh, as we see Mr. Sunderland looks to be a little disappointed. Back in Halliburton, we see Tom and Billy running through the streets as we see dead, burned bodies all around. As Tom sees the door to the underground pantry, as he says, "There, go!" We see Kezia walking through the streets with smoke all around, as we see burned, innocent civilians are just laying in the streets. She looks sad. But then, we see one of them is a little boy, as we see he's still breathing, as he is barely holding on to dear life. Kezia walks up to this suffering little boy that she got killed, as he is reaching his hand up trying to stay alive. Kezia sees this as she looks disgusted with herself. He sits there as we see tears coming down her face as she says, "I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. I'm so fucking sorry." She then stabs the kid in the head and ends his life, ending his suffering. She then stands in the smoke as she pulls out her walkie, as we hear a voice saying,
Clear up on Main Street. Taylor, report.
Kezia picks up the walkie in a very horrified manner and says, "Every house is clear. I'm coming back." As she keeps moving. We see Tom and Billy get inside the pantry. Tom then gets some guns on him. He grabs 2 knives, 2 pistols, 2 machine guns, and a few more grenades to put on him as he says, "All right, I'm going out there. I'm taking these bastards out." Billy says, "Hey, I can help you." Tom says, "No, you're absolutely not. You are staying here where you're safe." Billy says, "But I can." Tom says, "Look, I know you got the fight in you, kid. I know that better than anyone. You have your dad's blood in you. And your mother's too. But you're my best friend's son, kid. And he wouldn't want me to allow you to do this. I lost him. I can't lose you too, kid." Billy says, "Well, neither can I." Tom says, "Hey, listen. I need you to stay here. You guard that door, okay? Your job is making sure that none of those soldiers come through that door. You understand? You got the whole arsenal on you. They won't take you down if you're in here. You understand?" Billy says, "Okay. Yeah, I can do it." Tom takes several guns with him in a bag as he goes up there to fight, leaving Billy to stand guard. We see he runs up the hill as he then goes to Blake and Marissa's house. He sees Blake in armor as we see several fighters inside, as Tom says, "I didn't think you'd show up." Blake says, "Hey, I may not like this town's leadership, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to defend it, Ginger." Tom says, "That a boy." One of the fighters then says, "How are we supposed to do this? They have choppers and guns." Tom says, "Well, we got one of those things." The guy then says, "How are we supposed to do this? Rob ain't here. Or Rivers? Or Arlo?" Tom says, "Hey, believe me, I'm scared shitless about where they are right now. But it doesn't change what's going down. This is what we've been waiting for. It may not have been the night we planned. Whether I like it or not, I did this. To all of you. I got us into this, and now it's time for me to get you out. So, let's save this town." We see Dave running through the streets as he then sees one of these guys as he runs after him and he tackles him to the ground. He then says, "I got you now, motherfucker. What you're doing is against the law, son, and we don't like conspiracies here. On top of that, you shot at a cop, so I don't think this is going to end very well for you in the court of law." We see the other guys come out from behind and knock Dave down. They take his gun off of him as they start beating him up. But as we see these men are kicking Dave over and over again, we then see a small smile on Dave's face as he is almost enjoying this. But then we see police cars surrounding the area as we see the Ziltrumite police have shown up for backup. They then take all of them down as we see the officers yelling, "Freeze! Nobody move!" We see the officers help Dave up and says, "Constable Miller, you okay? Constable Miller, you okay?" Dave says, "Ah, yeah, I think so." We then see Dave with ice on his shoulder as he's talking to one of the officers and says, "I warned him." One of the cops says, "Well, they're in custody now. Spreading propaganda was one thing. Beating up on a cop is a whole other thing to make their lives a living hell here. You may also have to make a statement in the court of law, Mr. Miller." Dave says, Yeah, I get it. Just make sure they pay." He walks up to the cell where one of the guys is being held, as he says, "That's a real stupid thing you did, you know that?" The prisoner says, "I could say the same for you, Dave Miller." Dave then looks on edge and he says, "How do you know my name?" The guy says, "Dave, there's a lot of people in this city that know about you. You're considered a legend to some. A lot of people know about you letting out a group of several prisoners, and you successfully got them out. That was your prison break that you did back in the day. And even though you bent the knee at the last minute, you did try. And you did succeed in some areas because not everyone that broke out got taken back in. And that's haunted the community for years now. And it's gotten a lot of people talking." Dave says, "So what? You're a kiss ass? Is that what this is?" The man laughs and says, "No, quite the opposite, in fact. And you may not believe me when I'm saying this, and you might think this is total bullshit, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I was hoping we'd get your attention tonight. I mean, hell, why do you think we were spraying that shit on the walls nearby your patrol area? We were hoping that you would see what we were doing." Dave says, "Well, you got a funny fucking way of showing it. So what are you asking for me here? For me to get you and your hillbilly friends the fuck out of the city? Yeah, I don't think so." The guy says, "Hey, now listen. You did it once before. And you were capable of doing it once before. And I know you got people in the city that are relying on you. And there are people in this city whose lives are falling apart. People you haven't seen for ages. And I bet there's more people that you want to see on the outside, isn't there? I mean, they must have been if they were part of your escapee. All I'm saying here is, can you honestly say that you don't have what it takes to do what you did again, but do it for real? And hey, listen, if you do decide to go through with this, and if you do change your mind, I'll have you know I have a friend on the inside that I want you to meet. And I'm doing this and I'm asking you this because I have a friend on the inside that would really like to meet you. A friend on the inside that may have a little bit of experience doing the thing that you tried to do. If anybody knows how to get somebody out, he does. And he knows a lot about you, Mr. Miller. In fact, we all do." Dave sits there now looking very intrigued. Back in Halliburton, we see Tom, Blake, and Marissa and a bunch of the rebellion soldiers walking out with guns through the smoke. As we see Ziltrumite soldiers see them and start firing at them, Tom says, "Get back, get back!" They back up behind one of the Ziltrumite trucks as they fire back and forth, as Blake says, "There's too many, Tom. We may have to flee. It's not late to turn." Tom says, "Shut the fuck up, Blake." He stands there next to him and pulls out 2 grenades as he throws them over his head and over the truck. As they blow up several of the soldiers, Tom says, "Now!" They all come out and fire at the rest. Arthur hears this as he hears on his walkie, "Sir, we're in need of assistance. They're killing us. Tom slits the soldier's throat for Arthur to hear as he picks up the walkie and says, "Well, I'm not going to argue with him there," as Arthur looks pissed as he yells to his men, "Get down there! Damn lumberjack is dying tonight!" As Tom and the rebellion are going through the streets, killing soldier after soldier. Back with Billy. We see him in the pantry as he then hears something outside the hatch door. He hears the door open. As we see, 3 Ziltrumite soldiers are inside. Billy goes for the gun as he holds his hand on the trigger and says, "Hey!" The soldier turns around as he lights them all up. But as we see, the gun knocks him back to the floor from the kick. We then see 2 of them are dead, as we then see one of them gets up quick and pulls his gun. Billy draws his, as the soldier then says, "Holy fuck! You're a kid!" Scratch that off my bucket list. You really should have known it wasn't going to go your way. As Billy pulls the trigger, but the gun is empty. The soldier turns around and laughs. As he whips the gun at Billy and knocks him onto the floor, the soldier says, "Life is short, kid, especially for you." But then, out of nowhere, we see a glowing knife comes right through the guy's throat. As the blood goes everywhere, as the man then falls to his knees and dies. Billy turns around to see Rivers is back. She helps him up and says, Hey, are you okay, kid?" He gives her the knife back as he says, "Thanks, Aunt Rivers." Rivers says, "Anytime, kid. Here, take one of those pistols and come with me." Billy says, "But I don't know if I should. I mean, Tom said I need to stay here." Rivers just rolls her eyes and says, "Ooh, I love Tom, okay? I really do. But he can be a bit of a tard. Come on, kid. You're all in. Come on." As they walk out together. We see the rest of the rebellion firing against more of the Ziltrumite soldiers, but then, out of nowhere, we see Rob, Haley, and Arlo come in and mow the rest of them down. Rob reloads his gun and says, "Well, home fucking sweet home." Haley says, "We clear them out. Check all the houses for survivors. Make sure the rest of the town is safe. Come on." Rob says, "You heard her. Let's go." We see Colin looking through the scope of his sniper rifle. As he looks shocked, Rebecca says, "What is it?" Colin says, "It's Haley. These are our people." Rebecca looks shocked as he says, "Cover me. I'm ending this right now." As he then starts picking off Ziltrumite soldiers in the streets, Arthur sees this and says, "What the hell is going on out there? Get off the street. Get off the street." Back in Ziltrumite at the party, we see Ashley and Miles showed up to the party. Miles says, "I'll give that son of a bitch one thing. He can throw one hell of a party." Ashley says, "Just remember, no drinking." Miles says, "Clear-minded. Got it." "What? I can do that." They enter the party as we see everyone having a good time, as Ashley says, "No matter how many of these happen, I still can never get used to it." Miles says, "Yeah, you and me both." We see Glenn and his wife are at this party, as we see them go up to Mr. Sunderland, as he says, "Hey Glenn, you look like someone who just stepped on your fucking dreams, mate." Glenn says, "Yeah, well, it's Canada, Sunderland. Despite what people say, it's not all friendly folks and apologies down here." Mr. Sunderland says, "Well, what can I do for you?" Glenn says, "Scotch, neat." Mr. Sunderland says, "Coming right up." We see Matthew walks up to the bar, and Mr. Sunderland says, "Conductor Matthew, I'll be with you in just 1 second, sir." Matthew says, "Oh, it's no problem. Take your time." "Boy, no offense, Glenn, but you've looked better, man." Glenn says, "Oh, you don't fucking say." "Yeah, I had these fucking kids prank me all night last night playing Ding Dong Ditch. I fell right down the stairs face first." Matthew says, "Well, shit. That's terrible. Though I've wiped out before. This was before the outbreak, though. I was drunk, out of my mind one day, and I was going to do target practice. Damn near blew my dick off. So I can understand that being horrible for you, but it gets worse, buddy. Trust me." He then walks away as Sunderland serves them. We see Ashley and Miles as we then hear, "So you guys showed up too?" As we see, Sydney walks up to them, and Ashley says, "It's good to see you, Sydney." Sydney says, "Yeah, well, it's honestly nice to see anybody right now." Miles says, "Well, we'll be sitting over there if you want to join us." Sydney says, maybe later, sure." We see she looks really out of place. As we see, some of our people aren't even close anymore. As we can see, Sydney has a hard time even talking with our people. Later on, we see Sydney at the party talking with some people. As we then hear, "Hey dude, I didn't think you would show up." We see Pip, Kezia's friend, walks up to her. as Sydney says. Pip? I haven't seen you in a while, Pip says. Yeah, I'm here with the fam. Thought we'd come by and pay our respects, you know? You've met my wife before, right, Caroline? Sydney says. Of course. She shakes her hand, and Pip says, my daughter is around here somewhere. Let me go see if I can find her. As Sydney just stands there, observing this party. Back in Halliburton, we see Haley with her gun running through the streets with a few of the rebellion soldiers. They then search one of the houses as we then see it's empty. Haley looks around and says, anyone seen Nancy Thompson? One of the guys says, no. Haley looks sad and says, alright, we keep looking. She had 3 kids, goddammit. But then, out of nowhere, all of the soldiers behind her get shot and killed as someone then pistol whips her to the floor. As we then see her nose is bleeding, as we hear, you really thought you were doing something here, didn't you? Look at me. Haley turns around and says, you lost by coming here? Raging war? All you did is make it worse for yourself. Arthur laughs and says, is that so? Your people were living the normal life, where you didn't have to be running from anything or anybody anymore, or fighting anymore, hell, surviving anymore. And now that's all gonna change, because you thought whatever the hell you have is better than what we have. Did you ever choose to accept it? I wonder, did you ever choose not to? The end of your story. Hell, the end of the West family's journey. Well, it all died when your husband died, didn't it? Now you're just trying to carry on a dead man's legacy. I think he'd be real disappointed in you in allowing an event like this to happen. Really spitting on that legacy, Mrs. West. She kicks him in the leg as he falls. She then punches him over and over again as he then shoves her across the room as he says, I've always wanted to know what it's like to fight the leader of these people that I'm just struggling to get a hold of in the last 6 years. I mean, even the ones in our possession. It never really feels like they've ever been truly part of it. You raised a good group, Haley. It's just too bad we already took them. Haley looks worried and says, stop your bullshit. Where the hell are the rest of the families? Where the hell are the rest of our people? Arthur says, well, you see, my men, they found something. Something mighty interesting. We then see the soldiers busting down the door to the bunker, where all of the families are inside, as they point guns to all of them and start ripping these families out of their arms. As Arthur says, see, the mission was to kill all of you, but when I realized not everyone was here, I thought the only way to stop the rest of the ones that escaped is to make sure that you never come after us again. So a lot of those children and innocent people that you claim you fought for, well, they're going to be taken back with me, and we're going to use them. More importantly, I was thinking about what Tom said to me when we met last time, and I said there was nothing in this for me. Well, that's not entirely true. You see, our commander is going to have a great use for them, and if you try fighting back against the rest of us, well, now there'll be an even bigger consequence. As we see the soldiers getting these families into the back of some of the trucks, as they start driving away with them, as Haley looks angry and says, you don't fucking hurt them. You hurt them, and that'll be the last thing you... Arthur says, oh my, you obviously missed the point of what we are about, Mrs. West. People get to thrive in our community. People get to live their lives in a civilized manner. And we aren't even making them go through the interview process. We're just bringing them in, which is against our policy. And unless you have something better than what we have for these families and children, that's the best place they'll be. Haley says, and how do I know you're not going to kill them? Arthur says, well, you don't. He smiles as she then swings her pickaxe at him, as he goes down. He then hits her as she tries getting him, but then he pushes her down towards a mirror. The mirror shatters and cuts her on the face. She then looks at him with a death stare as she runs at him and pushes him out the window. She then grabs her pickaxe quickly and walks out the door to go finish him off. But then she sees nothing but smoke outside the house. As she walks outside, as she then walks through it, trying to find and kill Arthur. We see Colin and Rebecca going through the streets, killing as many Ziltrumite soldiers as they can find. But then we see Arthur from far getting into one of the choppers. As we see, it's the last helicopter. As Colin sees him getting away, as he and Rebecca fire at the chopper. But some of the soldiers open the door and fire down at both of them as they have to get back. As we see Arthur got away with a few men. Colin and Rebecca see Haley's silhouette as they see her walking through the smoke, as they point guns at each other, as Colin sees her and says, "Oh my God, Haley?" Haley sees them and says, "Colin?" She walks up to them both as she then sees their outfits and looks concerned, as he then says, We're not with them." Rebecca says, "We didn't know this was you until we showed up. Until we saw you guys roll in, we knew we had to help. For old time's sake." Haley looks horrified and says, "Well, I'm glad you're both alive. Is everybody else?" Colin says, "Yeah, they're okay. Although, Tegan, she was murdered a good while ago. She died a horrible, horrible death. As far as we know, everybody else is still alive. I'm sorry, Haley, but we gotta find the others. The soldiers, they took all the..." We then see the last truck driving away. As we see the families in the back of the truck are captured. They all look angry as Colin says, "We'll run them down, come on!" We see they both get into one of the vehicles as Colin and Rebecca drive out to run them down and run them off the road. We see the truck speeding off as the soldiers are driving it, as we hear Colin and Rebecca behind them. As Colin tries shooting the tires of the truck, as they drive side by side next to them, as Rebecca jumps out of the vehicle and hops on to the back of the truck, as she hears these families in the back saying, "Help! Help! Help! Help!" Rebecca is holding on to the truck as the soldiers start driving in zigzags to get her off of the back of the truck. We see up ahead on the road, there's a bunch of deadheads. Rebecca tries to hang on, but then the deadheads are upcoming as she makes the hard call to jump off the back. Colin then tries plowing through these deadheads on the road, but then, as we see, Rebecca is on the ground with no weapons on her. As Colin looks back, as he has a choice to make, save Rebecca and let the families go, or leave Rebecca and try to save the families. Back in Halliburton, we see Kezia is walking through the smoke, looking for the rest of the soldiers. She looks absolutely disgusted with herself, as she just stands there in total shock. We then hear a gun click behind her, as we hear, "Drop the gun, Kezia." She turns around, as we see Tom pointing a gun towards her, as he says, "Drop your gun, Captain. I won't ask again." She drops it, as he says, "Under normal circumstances, I would have killed you for being a soldier. We used to be family. We used to be friendly. Remember that? And now, I'm standing here in front of a murderer who killed innocent people for fucking nothing, who tortured our people for years, and stood there as they watched the whole goddamn thing go down. Why? I want to know why. You tell me why! Kezia looks emotional and says, It wasn't supposed to be that way. It wasn't, Tom says. What? Hey, tell me what that means. Tell me why my daughter's life was almost taken last week because you stood there and didn't do a fucking thing, Kezia says, because my son would have died. Tom looks confused and says, You have a son? In this place, you have a fucking son? Kezia says, Not my blood, but he's legally mine. Yes. It wasn't always that way. After I was taken, that night back at the motel, I tried running. I tried getting back to you. I tried getting back to all of you. But they found me first. They took me. Gave me drugs, knocked me out. And my mindset was, not along. Go along until eventually I can find an opening somewhere. Somehow. But then I met a family. This dad and his little boy named Benjamin. We were clearing deadheads. Just like every other prisoner was. Just like you were. But one night, we were assigned as a team. With that little boy in the line of fire. Those fucking assholes put a goddamn kid in the line of fire. And I made the call. I told them to split up so we could cover more ground together. And not 1 minute later, this reformed deadhead, unlike anything I've ever seen, he killed his father so brutally in front of him that it was over in seconds. And then, there he was, a little boy with no parent or guardian. So I knew from that moment on, I had to keep him safe. And even though I protected him, escaping never crossed my mind, Tom. It never did. But the years went on. And I raised him. And he finally had a normal life. And he didn't want anything to change. What was I going to do? Send him back out there in the world with me? No. And I was far from home. So fucking far from home that I thought, keeping this kid safe is exactly why I'm here. And then you all showed up a few months later. And you joined. Well, at least most of you did. So I didn't think about escaping anymore. I thought it was easier to have you guys there. And then this kid would be protected all the same. And as the years went on, Ziltrumite forced me to do horrible jobs for them. And kill innocent people. She looks at him dead in the eye and says, and keep them away from their loved ones. And I had to do it. I had to. If not, Enzo, the commander of Ziltrumite, he threatened to murder my kid in cold blood. This man has been a problem for me since before the dead started rising, Tom. And he threatened to murder my kid in cold blood. And I knew he wasn't bluffing. So in order to survive, I had to do horrible things to make sure he survived. You never stopped being my family, Tom. None of you did. I was just scared. I didn't know what to fucking do. Tom looks shocked by all of this, as he looks like he wants to kill her. As she says, please, just let me go. And I'll act like none of this ever happened. If I don't come back tonight, I don't know what'll happen to that boy. Please. Tom then keeps the gun pointed towards her and says, do you have any idea what it's like to lose a child? Billy, he was my best friend before the apocalypse. You know the reason I stayed by his side so much? Both his mother and his father. Great folks they were. I later found out, a few months into my friendship with Billy, that they had both died in a plane crash trying to get back to their son. And he had no other family around. No ties, no one. So I became the only guardian that kid had. Not legally, but I did. In this world, and Dave, he took that from me. And I found it in my heart to forgive him. And even though sometimes I just want to fucking kill him, I had to step up and be what you are for that boy. But you are still the woman that took part in threatening my daughter. And I still haven't gotten her back. And you still haven't told me why she's so goddamn important to the city. Kezia says, I can't. Tom says, well, I can't either. He clicks his gun and keeps it in his sights. We see the fires everywhere. We see Haley, Rob, and what's left of the rebellion just looking at this. Billy runs up to Haley and says, Mom! They hug as she says, Are you okay? Billy says, Yeah, I'm fine. Rob looks at all the fires as he looks back at his people, the ones that are left, and says, Gather everyone up at the docks. Justice must be served. Back with Rebecca, we see her surrounded by deadheads as they all surround her, but then they all get shot and killed by Colin. He helps her up and saves her life as she looks relieved as she says, No, they got away. Colin says, There's nothing we can do about it now. We gotta get out of here. Come on. Back in Ziltrumite, we see the party going on, as we see Sydney talking with some of the people, as someone taps her on the shoulder and says, Hey Sydney. Sydney turns around and says, Yeah? Pip says, I finally found her. This is my daughter. As we see, Pip's daughter is an older Rose. Sydney sees Rose again after all these years, as she stands there looking shocked. We see everyone talking and socializing, but then we see a few of the residents start falling to the floor and collapsing. Everyone at the party sees this, as we see a few more people collapsing as well. Sydney picks up on this as everyone starts freaking out. Enzo and Julia and the rest of his men see this happening from across the room, as Enzo says, What the fuck is going on? As we see, one of his guys says, Not sure. Did someone poison these people? Julia stands there and says, I think someone did something. Enzo turns to her as Julia faints, as she falls to the floor. Enzo says, Julia! He looks scared for her life and says, No. Julia! Wake up! Julia! Someone get a fucking doctor! We see the party has gone wrong as everyone looks around, terrified of these people. As we then see, Mr. Sunderland is just watching this happen. as he starts walking out of the bar with a smirk on his face as he says,
Only the work of your favorite bartender.
We see Arthur and what's left of his team arriving back to the city of Ziltrumite. They land on the roof of one of the skyscrapers as he gets off and says, home sweet home. As we see Arthur walks over to the side, as we see all of the families of Halliburton that they took are just on their knees in a line on the top of the roof. Arthur then sees Enzo and a few of his men walking up to this as he then says, Arthur! Did you get it done? Arthur says, well, alright, they're not entirely alright. There might have been a little bit of a situation. Enzo says, not entirely! What part does eliminate the fucking threat doesn't transfer in your fucking head? Where's Captain Taylor? Arthur says, well, it's a little bit of a problem there, boss. We did blow up the compound like you asked, but I'm afraid we didn't manage to get everybody, alright? Now, a lot of folks died. Enzo interrupts and says, no kidding, you come back with less than half of my fucking soldiers. And based off the looks of it, it looks like they won. Arthur says, I'd actually argue that one, sir. He shows them all the families on their knees, and Enzo says, what's all this? Well, someone may say this is, leverage. Pretty good leverage, if I do say so myself. And I was thinking of using them. Enzo says, using them. And you didn't kill every single one of them like I asked you. Arthur says, well, not exactly. Enzo grabs him by the collar and says, not exactly. Not exactly, huh? You are really pushing my buttons there, boy. You better fix the mess you created, you understand? Or else I will fix it for you. Arthur says, what happened? I can always tell when something ain't right. Enzo says, someone sabotaged our party. There's someone in this city that's messing with us. And Julia was a victim. She's currently unconscious in the hospital right now. Arthur says, is she alive? Enzo says, I have no idea. I haven't been able to see her yet. But someone in this town is doing something. And I find it awfully ironic that this West family came into play. Killed our men, Kezia's missing, and now you show up with these families here. And now Julia? This is becoming a fucking pattern. Arthur says, well, boss, what the hell do we do about it next? Enzo looks furious and says, I think we're going to have to go back to the moment where we met these people in the first place. We're going to show them the errors of their decisions. But this time, Ziltrumite first. He starts walking away as he says, put the families in custody, Arthur. We're going to need them for what comes next. As he walks away, as we see Enzo has a plan. Back in Halliburton, we see what's left of the rebellion is all gathered up in a group by the water. We see Haley, Tom, Rivers, Billy, Blake, Marissa, and the others. They're all in an open crowd. As we see Rob walks out with torches, as we see the whole town is just looking at him in sadness, as he stands there and says, I know what you're looking at me with. You feel sadness, hurt, and anger. Now I know that we haven't witnessed a night like that since we escaped from that hellhole 6 years ago. Now I know you want answers, and I wish I could give you every answer to every question you have. But unfortunately, I'm not able to do that. We lost a lot of people tonight. A lot of people that believed in what we were doing here. A lot of people that joined just because it was a safe place. They didn't even want to fight with Ziltrumite. And they died anyway. Now, I told you this place would be safe from what they were doing. That's a promise that I made to all of you when we first found this place 6 years ago. And I broke that promise. And while I can't bring back your loved ones, I can certainly give you some satisfaction. If that's what you all are looking to get, I failed you tonight. And I know it's going to take a lot for me to repay that debt. I may never repay that debt. But I can also reward you. He gives his guys a nod as we see them bringing out a person with a bag on their head. This here is someone you people may want. Someone who killed your loved ones tonight. As he takes the bag off, as he says, Captain Kezia Taylor herself. Haley and the others look shocked as Tom just stands there looking all for this, as the crowd cheers for her death, as we hear them all saying, "Murderer! Murderer! 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 Kill! 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 Kill!" Rob says, "As you wish. Is that what you want?" They cheer for it as Kezia looks terrified, as Haley looks shocked, as Rob smiles as he whispers in Kezia's ear, "I told you our song would be sang, Kezia Taylor."
I remember those lost in the dark, the bullet or the blade that kept us apart. But I've been moving on, can't be still for long, 'cause it's the only way. Never ache for a place called home, can't hold on so tight, gotta let it all go.
Welcome back, Haley.
The irony is a bit excessive.
I'm ready now.
Operation Ziltrumite ready for go.
No matter the risk, no matter what we have to face, that place will not be standing for long. It's time for us all to go home.
How are you gonna watch as my guys rip apart your entire crew?
Guys like us think there's a way to get out of here. Guys like us think that there's only one way for any of this to end. Do you have any idea what you've done?